All right. Mr. Garrett Callaghan, welcome to the Baseball Forward podcast, my friend. How are you today?
Good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today and chop it up with you a little bit.
Heck yeah, Garrett. Hey, you know what is so cool is I love how baseball is such a small fraternity and it brings guys together all over the country, all over the world, really. Before I start, I like that shirt. What do you got on there? UMass Boston with the New Balance?
So we actually just got a New Balance deal with UMass or with for our entire school. So
Heck
this
yeah.
is from last year. So we had some New Balance stuff. We had some Under Armour stuff. One of the exciting things we got going for us now, we got a New Balance deal. So all of our uniforms are going to be New Balance, from head to toe. And then we also got a Wilson glove deal. So we're getting half off of Wilson gloves. And then that includes DeMarini bats as well. And I think Evo Shield gear, protective gear like the elbow guard, the shin guard, and stuff.
Dude, hey, this is what I love. We're talking to Garrett Callaghan on the Baseball Forward podcast today. Garrett is an assistant coach at UMass Boston, Division III perennial power. Guys, look him up. This team wins all the time. So I love hearing that you guys are getting taken care of with the New Balance. I feel like New Balance might be the place to be with the spikes and turfs and everything.
I personally, my entire college career, we kind of had the option early on in my career, and I tried out Nike, I tried out Under Armour, but New Balance just always fit my foot the best, and I felt like they always broke in the best too. So I was definitely always a big New Balance guy, especially on the footwear side of things. But I'm super pumped that we have a New Balance deal now, and all of our guys get to experience, being New Balance from head to toe.
Man, and you know what? Hey, I would be remiss if I did not say shout out to Boston Burris and the Burris family, who I know Boston plays at UMass Boston. Coincidentally, I remember when he decided to go to UMass Boston, I was like, yeah, that's pretty appropriate. So shout out to the Burris family on the Baseball Forward podcast.
He's a great kid. He's a great kid. He works super hard, and he's a great leader for our program, and he's a great representation of everything it means to be a Beacon.
Wow, dude, that is amazing. That's good. I love it. I love hearing that. So Garrett Callaghan, UMass Boston. I looking through you, man, and you and I went back and forth a little bit here. And man, you had such a dynamic, a cool playing career. And you're getting into your coaching career with UMass Boston, which is amazing. I'm curious. I'll lead off with this. I'm curious, what is that transition like going from you had a stellar playing career, played at Ithaca. You're all over the record books in Ithaca, at Ithaca Division III school. You played at Rutgers Division I school. So you've been there, kind of done that in the playing career. What's it like transitioning from playing to coaching?
I think I would be lying if I said I didn't miss playing every single day. But coaching, I guess, is the biggest thing that can kind of fill that void to missing playing. Like I'll be playing in a men's league, for the rest of my life, I think, or until my body doesn't allow me to, just because I love the competitive side of baseball. And I truly do miss playing every single day. I wish I could be out there with the guys, like fielding ground balls, catching fly balls, hitting BP with them. But the transition to coaching has been super smooth. That's a credit to the coaching staff I think I currently work with. They're super fun to work with, especially Brendan Egebrot, our head coach. He's taken me in with open arms as a guy with really no coaching experience outside of like a local travel team. So I'm super grateful for him, and he's made my transition to coaching awesome. It's been so much fun, and I love working with the guys every single day. There's truly a ton of value in coaching. I feel like I learn more every single day from our coaching staff and our players and our administration. I learn more from them than they learn from me every single day, I feel like.
Wow, I like hearing that, man. That is coaching. I will say this, sitting at my position at this point, I will say you're gonna love coaching. It is super rewarding, especially when you get to deal with coaches that have the experience, that wanna help, and then you have the good group of kids. So I'm curious, as you guys get fired up this fall, you guys just started fall practice. Kind of take me through what a fall looks like for you guys and what you're looking to accomplish in the fall as a UMass Boston Division III baseball team.
Yeah, so we have a good amount of newcomers this year between our freshman 2024 graduating class from high school and then some incoming transfers, JUCO guys, and then grad transfers as well. So the big thing that we want to do is make them understand kind of what it means to be a Beacon. We want to make sure they're working hard, not just on the field, but in the community, in the classroom as well. So those are a few of the teaching points that we kind of take them through early on in the fall. Obviously, you got to input all of your, bunt defense, first and third defense, hitting approach. But one of the biggest thing that I think that we kind of focus on at UMass Boston is, hey, like, we're not just here for you as a player. We want you to be, a really good person. We want you to be a really good student. We want you to build really positive relationships with your professors, your teammates, the administration, us. That way, when you're done at UMass Boston, you're ready for the real world. You're ready to start a company. You're ready to be a productive employee. You're ready to start a family. You're ready to, do everything that it means to be a human, not just a baseball player.
Heck yeah, man. That's amazing stuff, because being a student athlete at the collegiate level, if you allow it to be, man, it is such amazing preparation for the real world. I love hearing that. Is that kind of, do you feel like the majority of the guys, do they accept that? Are they excited to have more than just baseball, make it more than just baseball?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've had the ABCA Academic Team Award, I think the past 5 or 6 years. So I think the guys really, truly do buy in to everything that we're preaching to them. One of my favorite lines is, hey, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So typically what you see, and what I've seen as not just as a player, but as a coach, even though I've only been coaching for 1.5 to 2 years now, the guys that are the best students are typically the best players. The guys that are the best players typically have the best work ethic. The guys with the best work ethic are typically getting the best jobs out of college. So I truly do believe the little things matter, and how you do those little things. Your life is essentially just a bunch of little things that add up to the big things in your life. So how you do one thing is truly how you do everything, in my opinion. So if you're not getting your homework in on time, typically the guys that are late on their homework, that don't do well in school, they're the guys that are late to practice. They're lazy at practice. They're unfocused. So we do truly preach, hey, how you're going to do the small things in life, the things that you really might not think matter in the moment, they truly do matter. And you'll look back at your college experience like, hey, like, I'm so glad that I did everything that it took to be a really good college athlete, from the academic side, social side, and obviously athletic side of things.
Garrett, talking with Garrett Callaghan here of UMass Boston on the Baseball Forward podcast. Dude, that is so profound, because I think back at just so many instances where this is I want your message to, like, the young guys, the high school players, like what you said, the little things matter. How you do anything is how you do everything. What does that mean? Like, when you guys are out recruiting, you're looking at guys and you're paying attention. Why do good grades matter?
Well, it matters. Good grades matter because you can get a ton of academic scholarships here at UMass Boston, and that's across the board at any school that you're going to get recruited by. I think I read something like a 3.5 GPA gets you into like 76% of schools. A 4.0 gets you into 93 or 94% of schools. Obviously, the Ivy League schools, the NESCACs, have some different requirements, but you're just opening up doors to more opportunities with good grades. And then another thing that we kind of think about too is like, hey, if like he's got a 3.8 in school, we know he's focused in the classroom. We know he's probably a good kid. He's not going to give any of our professors issues. And then he's probably going to come in on the baseball field and work his butt off to be a better player as well. So things like grades, things like just simple things like, hey, how do you take your warmups in between innings? That kind of stuff matters so much to me as a coach, because say you're a starting shortstop for your travel team, there's no guarantee you're getting a ground ball in game. But I can see you get 25 reps in between the 3 innings I'm watching your game. So all that kind of little stuff matters in between innings, how you interact with your teammates in the dugout. Obviously, the way you play is super important to us, but the little things like I just mentioned, like just how you interact with your teammates, how you speak to your coaches, how well spoken you are on the phone when we want to talk to you. That kind of stuff is really important to us in the recruiting process.
Man, that is well said. Well said, Garrett. As you're out recruiting and you're out evaluating players, and do you I'm assuming you do, but you pay attention to those red flags and you say, hey, the things you just mentioned, good grades say a lot about your character, a lot about your discipline, the way you treat your teammates, the way you treat your coaches. You guys pay attention to those things. So tell me a little bit about if you're seeing things that kind of are red flags. How does that turn you off of guys?
100%. Like if a guy comes back in the dugout, I can understand being frustrated and like having just displaying some of the frustration. I think that shows you care. But if you're like going at your coaches, going with your teammates in like a negative manner, it's an automatic turnoff because that's not the type of player we're trying to recruit at UMass Boston. Yes. And I think I'd speak for a lot of coaches at other schools as well. If like you're not having great interactions with your teammates, or if you ask, say, ask the travel coach or high school coach, like, hey, how is Johnny as a person? How is he as a student? And he doesn't have good things to say about it. It's like we can find something better than Johnny, who is a good player, but not a great teammate, maybe not the best person.
Yeah, man. When you guys are looking and you're deciding on guys, I got to imagine it's if two guys are equal physically, there's going to, the separators are going to be the things that, the grades, the character, the discipline problems. Fair enough to say?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Everybody at the high school level, especially in travel ball where we mainly recruit out of, everybody's good. Like you wouldn't be on the travel team if you weren't good. So again, going back to the little things truly, truly matter, not just in the recruiting process, but life as well.
Talking with Garrett Callaghan, UMass Boston here, assistant coach. Garrett, I want to backtrack a little bit because you have a very interesting playing career, man. You had a heck of a college career at Ithaca. You were at Rutgers as well. So you played at the Division III level, played at the Division I level. Is there, to the audience and to the guys out there listening today, the young men that kind of have that D1 or bust mentality, or they're not really sure of how to navigate the recruiting process? I'm curious, as you look back at your career, and I know it's still relatively close, but is there anything that you wish you would have done differently, that you wish you would have known then, kind of what you know now?
I think going back as far as I can really to my college career, like incoming as a freshman, like I was a pretty good high school player. I honestly got by on just raw talent alone for a really, really long time. And what I would say, what I wish I knew then is how good guys are at this level, Division I, II, or III. Everybody is really, really talented, really, really good. And it's kind of on you to take charge of your own development. I was pretty lazy, I'd say, in my freshman year. A lot of kids, though, are like, they're lazy. They think they know what they're doing as a 17, 18, 19-year-old freshman. But everybody is really, really good at this level. So what I would say is it is truly on you to take charge of your own development. Obviously, you have the resources that you need with coaching, lifting programs, strength coaches, and anything along those lines. But just outwork everyone, because at the end of the day, everybody's talented. And when you put your head on the pillow at night, when your career is over, when you get home from practice, you want to know I gave it everything I had to get to the highest level that I could.
Man, that's really good stuff. Really good stuff, Garrett. So I want to talk about that, because kind of you giving knowing what you know now, especially from a coaching perspective, I got to imagine the things you're saying. You're like, oh my gosh, people used to say this to me all the time or whatever. I know for me, it was, Ross, slow down, slow down. Like I remember hearing that all the time. As you go through, as you kind of look back at that career, and you're talking kind of to your younger self, is it a combination of like, do you wish that you would have put more into the sleeping patterns, the eating patterns, the weight room? Like, what would have made you your best version 5 years ago?
I think getting all the extra swings, one of the things we talk about at UMass Boston is like, hey, like on days that we're practicing in the fall, if you have a class at say 8, 9, and then like 11:30, something like that, come get swings in at 10 o'clock. I'll be there for you. And even if you only get 50 extra swings, all that stuff compiles. So, maybe you come out for our 16 fall practices and you get 50 extra swings every day. That's like 700, 800 more extra swings that you got. Personally, I had a bit of a sweet tooth early on in my college career, and I still do to this day. I do wish I took the nutrition side of things a little bit more seriously early in my college career. I think I made a big change to my diet in between my freshman and my sophomore year, and that led to huge changes to my development. A lot of people, COVID was definitely a big part of my career as well. It really threw some things sideways, not just for me, but for everyone that was my age in my playing class and everyone in my age around me as well. But that COVID period was huge for me in terms of my development, because I had access to a facility during that entire shutdown period. So I was able to get crazy. I was lifting 6-7 days a week. I was still getting my swings in. I was still on a pretty tough throwing program that I put myself through to get my arm stronger. So I just think the weight room will change your life. I was a pretty chunky, out of shape kid my freshman year. I decided to really, really get strong and focus on it my sophomore, junior year. And that's when I started to see a direct correlation to how well I was playing, how well I was playing on the field, and just how well I felt like as a person too. Like being in really good shape, it's big for your confidence. And you know, as you know, in this sport, confidence is everything, and you can just fake it till you make it. Honestly, like I wasn't the best player, I wasn't the most talented, but my mindset was always, I'm the best player on the field, no matter any time I step on it. And there's not a pitcher that can get me out. The only way I get out is if I get myself out. And I think confidence is huge for players. Like you don't have to be the biggest, you don't have to be the best, but typically the most confident team is going to win.
Man, that's really, really well said, Garrett. Let me ask you a question. Where do you think the confidence comes from? How if I'm a young guy listening to this and I'm listening to Coach Callaghan at UMass Boston tell me confidence is key, how do I grow my confidence as a young player?
I think it just comes from your work ethic. Like if you know you put your head down on the pillow at night and you say, I outworked everyone today and there's nothing that could stop me from doing that. That's where the confidence comes from, right? Like confidence is contagious too. So I think across teams, if you have a group, if your best players are super confident players, that's going to trickle down to all the younger guys, the freshmen, maybe the guys that aren't getting as much time. And that's kind of where you start building dynasties where, you know, the senior on the team was the most confident player. He was the hardest working player. He was the best student. He was the best representation of your program. The freshmen and sophomores get to look up to him, and then they kind of understand the expectation going forward as to what it really takes to be, you know, not just the best player on the field, but the best representation of the program.
I'm a firm believer that preparation kills anxiety and builds confidence. And I think, Garrett, what a message that is to the young players is that really, I think to be the best version of yourself as a baseball player, heck, even as a coach, if you're the most prepared and you are attempting, you are trying your hardest to be the best version of yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, I think you're probably going to have the most amount of confidence at that point. You agree?
Absolutely. And there's so many things you can do to build your confidence. It's like we have performance coaches here at UMass Boston. I'm not sure if every school has one, but we have an awesome performance coach where you can go to her and just be like, hey, like I'm not feeling like myself at the plate. What's going on? What are some things I can do to kind of understand what's going on in my own mind? So one of the things that in my playing career that I definitely took pride in towards the back end of it is like just breathing. Breathing is so important.
Wow.
Like deep breaths at the plate, deep breaths when you're on the mound. You can really control your heart rate. Like we always talk about, hey, like there's a level of intensity that you want to play at. You don't want to play at a 10 where it's like, oh my, like you're herky jerky, you're squeezing the bat as hard as you can, you're choking the ball on the mound. But you don't want to be at a 1 either. Like if you're at a 1, it means you don't really care that much. You want to be somewhere between like a 5 and a 7 where it's like the intensity's on, my heart rate's going a little bit. I really care about this, but I'm not like panicking. I'm not anxious about the situation that I'm in as well.
You know, talking with Garrett Callaghan, UMass Boston today here on the Baseball Forward podcast. Garrett, when I played, man, old fuddy-duddy, okay? So when I played, we didn't talk about mental performance. It was rub dirt on it and gross. It makes me gross to think about that. But younger generation, your generation, talk to me about that. I mean, do you guys, is it open? Do you guys, is that something that the coaches tell you guys seek out, help, train your brain type deal? Like does mental preparation training, does it matter to this younger generation?
Absolutely. I think there was a famous Yankee. I forget who had the quote, but it was like baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical. Obviously,
Yogi
messing
Berra
around with that. But baseball to me is like 70. Yeah, Yogi Berra. Baseball is a very, very mental game. Like you could be 4 for 4 in back-to-back games and you're on top of the world, and then the next thing you know, you're 0 for your next 20. So I think confidence and your mindset kind of comes to sticking with an approach that works for you, sticking with a process that works for you. And that process is built when the lights aren't on. So that process is built in the fall when you're getting your extra swings in. That process is built when you're hitting inside, when you're getting your extra throwing in. That process is built when you only have one lifting partner, and there's no music blasting and there's no 40 other guys to fire you up, but you're still going to, and nobody to hold you accountable, but you're still doing the right things because, the progress is made when nobody really is watching. So we'd like our guys to work when the lights aren't on, and then that helps them perform when the lights get bright. But going back to your mental performance thing, we start every single practice with what we call a 2-minute mind up, where the guys literally just get on their backs, relax, close their eyes. We put the timer on for 2 minutes, and we work on active breathing just to get them in the right mindset, to calm them down, get their heart rates down, and get them in the right mindset to have a really focused practice.
Man, I love that. And honestly, it kind of makes me jealous because as a guy who sped things up, the key for me was slowing things down. And that's what I'm hearing is you guys are slowing things down. Something I want to talk to you kind of cool that I think you and I both experienced as players, the Northwoods League. Did I read that you played in the Northwoods?
I think I played 3 summers in the Northwoods League, 3 different spots too. So it was definitely a unique experience out there.
So I want to the listeners out there, I want you to kind of explain the importance of summer ball to your development as a player at the collegiate level.
Yeah, so summer ball is huge for me. So I think I did 4 separate summers. I did one in the NYCBL in upstate New York, and then I went to the Northwoods after that. And then during the COVID shutdown, they did pods in different sites. So I think there were 3 different teams that all stayed in the same location to kind of try to prevent the spread of COVID. It was a pretty fun time, honestly. We were staying at like a campground as our housing. We had like 4-person cabins set up in Traverse City, Michigan, which is a beautiful slept-on place in my opinion. I think Northern Michigan is beautiful.
I concur.
But yeah, summer ball in general it's super important to our guys' development. I think a big part of summer baseball is the fact that you're using a wood bat. So for me, when I would go and play summer ball in the Northwoods League, NYCBL, wherever I decided to play that summer, getting used to that wood bat is pretty tough. And then when you come back after 100, 200 at bats of the summer, swinging a wood bat, at least for me, I noticed between my sophomore and junior year playing 50, 60 games in the NYCBL with a wood bat every single day, I had so much more juice when I came back to that metal bat. The barrel felt bigger. The ball was traveling more. I could create more backspin. I could create more whip with my hands. And it's really good just if guys want to play professional baseball too. In summer ball, you're playing every single day, especially leagues like the Northwoods League. I think you play like 72 games in something like 75, 76 days. So it's a grind. You got to learn how to grind. You got to learn how to stick with your process. And then those summer leagues, all the scouts come to those games just because you're swinging with the wood bat. And you have all of the best talent kind of compiled into one location.
Man, that's a lot of fun. I just know that summer baseball, I feel like to the young guys, the high school players out there listening, I think that's one question that I think is missed in the recruiting process is when you're dealing with coaches like Coach Callaghan. Hey, ask them what does summer look like for me? If I come to UMass Boston, what does summer look like for me? Do you guys help me? Do you guys help place me? Which I know obviously you guys do. Do you guys help place me? Where? What can I expect? Because I think that summer ball stuff is super important to the guys that want to take baseball as far as they can take it. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And I think summer ball is different for everyone. I think everybody has a different development plan. So, for example, we had the rookie of the year in our conference last year, Brandon Garrett, and we had him in the Futures League. And then by the end of the summer, he was in the NECBL, which I think is probably the 2nd or 3rd best summer league in the country, only behind really the Cape Cod League. We've had guys in the Cape Cod League in the past before my time as a coach. But when you have outstanding performers that, they're in the 90s and that they can hang at that Division I level and the Cape Cod League, we'll get them there. Like we have connections to the Cape Cod League. A lot of the guys, say they only pitch, 10 innings as a freshman. We're going to want them to throw 30 or 40 in the summer to get them ready to be a guy for us in their sophomore year. So when we go to that, sometimes what you see with a lot of the summer leagues is, you'll have like 22 pitchers on a roster. You're only pitching like 2 innings a week. At that point, as coaches, we would rather you just go play in a local men's league, maybe get an internship or a job over the summer that's flexible with the the league that you're playing in, and you just go pitch 40 innings and work on your development, get your arm really in shape for the fall, and you kind of go from there. So everybody's got a different timeline, a different development plan, and a different process to summer ball. But that's something we communicate very early on with our players. So they all understand where we expect them to go, what we expect them to do there, how many at-bats we expect them to get, how many innings we expect them to pitch. And it's an open conversation. And honestly, the conversation started 2 weeks ago, even before fall practice started.
Man, that's big time. I love hearing that. If you're listening out there, to all you young players out there listening, pay attention to coaches like this when they talk about the plans and they talk about the growth and development. That's the stuff that you want to pay attention, because you're dealing with somebody that knows what the heck they're doing. I love it. Talking with Garrett Callaghan, UMass Boston here today. Coach Callaghan, I'm curious, what's one thing about the NCAA Division III level that you feel most players don't understand?
I think what you kind of mentioned beginning of the call and the beginning of the podcast was, hey, like a lot of these guys have that Division I or bust mindset. I would encourage anybody to go, and as a high school player, hey, go to your local JUCO and just watch them play. Go to your local D3 game, watch them play. Then go to your D2 games, watch them play. And then go to the D1 games at the end and watch them play. And be honest with yourself. What is the difference in quality of play that you see? Guys at this level are unbelievable. Our ace pitcher from last year, funny enough, because I did my 5th year at Rutgers as well, he just got a full ride to go to Rutgers, and I'm expecting him to pitch a good amount of innings there. Wow. So the talent at this level, I think, is a little bit misunderstood, especially as you go further west where there's less Division III teams. Obviously, there's a plethora of them in Texas and in California as well, but guys, I'd say west of Ohio, that kind of area. I think the conception of Division III baseball, it's kind of just an extension of high school baseball. And I would encourage you to kind of just look into other Division III programs, how good some of those guys are, how hard they throw, how many home runs guys hit, the levels. And I think another thing that you can kind of look at too, d3baseball.com does a little tracker of things like guys with all the COVID years that are getting extra eligibility. They're tracking like, hey, Garrett Callaghan went and did 4 years at Ithaca, and then he did his 5th year at Rutgers. I mean, I look at a guy like Alex Madera from Arcadia, a school right outside of Philadelphia. Shout out to Chuck Thielman, by the way, if he's listening to this. He's the head coach of Arcadia now. He was my assistant coach in high school, so always happy to hear he's doing well. But Alex Madera was a player at Arcadia for 4 years, hit like 450 for his career, and then was the starting second baseman on a College World Series team at UNC last year.
Yeah.
So the talent at this level is unbelievable. I think the biggest difference that I would honestly say from the top down, all the guys at the top that are starting in lineups, all the starting pitching is Division I quality, in my opinion, as somebody that played both at the Division I and Division III level. I think the only thing that's different is the bullpen gets a little thinner really quick. Like Division I, everybody out of the bullpen is 95. At D3, that's when you can kind of start, that's when you get the offensive shootout games, in my opinion.
Sure. Wow, that's really good input, because, man, I would say that the same goes for guys. There are Division III teams that would beat Division I teams. There are Division II teams that would beat Division I teams. It all starts on the bump, and it's the athletes that you have on the field. And I think that is so well said, Garrett. So well said.
I think another thing to kind of think about too is like, look at the Division III guys that go to summer ball and play with Division I guys. For example, the Northwoods League is a mix of Division I, II, III, NAIA, and JUCO. There's so many Division III players that I personally know that go to the Northwoods League and hit like 330 with a 550 slugging percentage, and they outperform the Division I guys. And that's not to say I'm not here claiming Division III is significantly better than Division I, but I think the gap is a little bit closer than many perceive.
And it's going to keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller as time progresses. You know what? I'm big into giving. I want our listeners to have practical advice. Okay. So, and I want them to hear from the source. You're the source. You guys are the ones that are in the fire. You're the ones that are recruiting. You're the ones that have the roster spots. You know what's going on. So my next question to you is, what advice do you have for the high school players specifically that are going through the recruiting process? What advice do you have for those high school players that are wanting to play at the collegiate level?
I think the first thing that any coach looks at as a recruiter, Do they pass the eye test? And that's not saying the kid has to be 6'3", 220 and jacked for us to be interested in him. But is he out of shape? Is he slow up the baseline? Is he smooth in the field? Those kind of things matter to us. And it's like your first impression, not just as a recruiter, but just in your life in general is so important. The same can be said about when I go to watch a kid play. I also want you to be the same person and the same teammate and same player that you are when you don't expect him to be there. Like I can't tell you in just my 1 year and a half of recruiting so far, how many times people know I'm there and then they're a completely different player than when I pull up to their high school game and, just a plain old polo, nothing UMass Boston related. And I kind of sit in the outfield. They're a completely different player. They don't play with that same motor. So again, it goes back to your process. Are you sticking to your process 100% of the time? If you are, then you're going to be the same person you are, whether I'm watching, whether I'm not watching, whether Vanderbilt's there for you, whether JUCO's there for you, it doesn't really matter. You got to be the same person every single day. You got to be the same teammate every single day. One of the guys I learned so much from, he's actually from my hometown and just got drafted in the 3rd round by the Oakland A's. Sorry. His name's Josh Kuroda-Grauer. He came into Rutgers as a freshman when I was a 5th year. And I knew he was a good kid. I actually graduated high school with his sister, so familiar with the family, comes from a great background. But he was the most even-keeled guy. You would never, ever know if the kid was 4 for 4 with 4 bombs or 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Same person every single day. And I think the big reason to why he got drafted so high and why he had so much success, I think he hit like 430 his final year at Rutgers. It's because of his mindset. He's the same person every single day, no matter what. And then if you can just do that, coaches like I personally love watching a kid fail. I want a kid to get hit around a little bit on the mound. I want the kid to go 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts to start his day, because that tells me a lot about who he is, how he responds, in the 2nd inning when he rolls back out there, or in his 3rd at bat when he's 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Like, let me watch you fail and let me see how you handle it, because if you can't handle failure, you're not going to be a good college baseball player.
Man, that's really, really well said. I'd be curious, practically speaking, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and said, man, hey, I'm really interested in UMass Boston, what would that process look for that player? What would you recommend those guys doing?
It kind of depends on the region that they're from. I'd say 80 to 85% of our roster is all guys from the New England area. That's not to be said. We've had guys from California in the past. We've had guys from Texas in the past, like Boston Burris. He's a Texas guy. And we have 2 Texas players on our roster. I think if you're truly interested in UMass Boston, just keeping us in the loop with your schedule for the fall and summer and even high school in the spring. Like we can get out to some local games in the spring when our season's going on, especially on Mondays, which is typically our day off. But we always have 2 prospect camps a year. So I would say if you're truly that interested in UMass Boston, we've signed so many kids out of our prospect camp. We had our prospect camp this past Sunday, and I think we've already extended 2 or 3 offers from it.
Oh, wow.
So if you're that interested in it, obviously there's only so much you can see on video. There's very rare instances, in my experience at UMass Boston so far, we're going to say, we love his video. Let's offer him on the spot just because of the video. But if you show us good video and we're like, hey, like that's good video, and then you come to our camp and you show us the same thing, you're going to get offered, and you'd probably have a spot on our roster. But it's really hard because there's only so many places as a coach you can be. We only really have 2 to 3 guys that kind of go out around and recruit every single summer. So I wish I could be in 100 different places at once, but we can always get, 50 kids at a prospect camp, and I can get my eyes on all 50 of them in one spot. And in addition to that, you get to see the campus and the facilities and everything along those lines as well.
I think to the high school players out there wanting to play at the next level, I think that's something that's very missed, is from a process perspective, they don't understand that, man, they got to lay their eyeballs on you. Like, you can send them a email or give all the video you want and everything, but if your expectation is to send an email and get an offer, you're nuts.
Yeah.
Because the eyeball, you said eyeball test earlier, these coaches got to get their eyeballs. Is it something that when that you make first contact, it's okay, we're initially interested, the next step is, how do we get our eyeballs on them?
Absolutely. So there's a lot to be said. Like, there's a couple kids that we had from Texas that specifically joined travel teams that they knew were coming to a big tournament up here called the Boston Classic.
Yep.
And that's like, okay, if they're coming from Texas and joining a specific travel team because they want to play for a school in the Northeast, like I'm going to go watch them play. But there's like showing interest in the school is a big thing for us as well. And I know the kind of the narrative around prospect camps for these colleges, it's just a moneymaker. And yeah, of course, we're going to make money off of them. But if you're truly interested in the school, that's your best bet. You're going to see the campus. You're going to see the facilities. And I'm not saying you go spend $25,000 on prospect camps. You're better off spending that money on your development. But if there's a school you really, really want to go to, you should go to their prospect camp.
Man, that's such good advice. And you know what? I'm just sitting here listening to you. And Garrett, you're one of many. Like I said earlier, the baseball fraternity, the coaches, man, there's so many good dudes in the game of baseball. And what I'm feeling from you and what I know from you personally, you want to help. Like you want kids to find their way. Raise your hand, ask for help. Just because it's not UMass Boston, that's okay. But get around guys like this that want to help. Is that fair?
Absolutely. Like even if there's been kids that have gone to, not UMass Boston, especially kids back from where I'm from in New Jersey, that have reached out to me saying, hey, coach, like I know you're a recruiting coordinator. I really am not interested in UMass Boston, but I grew up 25 minutes from you. Is there any advice you can give me? Is there any connections you might have to, say schools in the NJAC, which is closer to my house and where they live as well? And I'm like, yeah, like let me reach out to them for you on your behalf. I'll kind of see what their needs are and let me see what I can do for you. And there's no promise I could help. There's obviously these coaches have recruiting needs of their own, but if there's a fit, I'm happy to help.
Gosh, I love hearing that. And I know it to be true. You've been awesome with me. And guys, I'm telling you, just raise your hand, help. And if you're asking for genuine feedback, I think the majority of baseball guys, they're in coaching because they want to help. Let them help you. Talking with Garrett Callaghan of UMass Boston. A few more minutes here, Coach Callaghan. I'm curious to know, what's the best baseball advice you've ever received?
I think there's two things. I think discipline. My dad always said, and this was something he wrote in my letter to me before I went to college. He said, he basically just left me with the acronym WIN. What's important now? That's something that's resonated with me my entire life, especially in the college baseball atmosphere as a player and a coach. You have to do the things that are important now. And then kind of something that goes hand in hand with that is discipline is the best form of self-love you can have for yourself, because you're actively pushing something off that you might want now. Like I was a big video game guy in high school. It's like I could just go and, get home from school at 3 or 4 o'clock and sit and play Madden or Call of Duty until 10:30 p.m. and go to sleep and call it a night. But if you have that discipline, motivation only gets you so far. It gets you through like the first week, but discipline takes over from there. Like, are you sticking to that same process every single day? Of course. Would I rather go play Madden than go, do an hour and a half lift and go get 200 swings in? Yeah, probably when I was in high school. But you got to do things to separate yourself. And the best thing you have as a separation tool for yourself is your work ethic, because a lot of kids in high school will just go home and play video games the rest of the day, where you could be grinding in the gym. And that's not to say you can't play video games to be a good college baseball player and a good recruit. But you kind of have to manage your time effectively and put your best foot forward. And at the end of the day, when you get to college, your work ethic is going to be everything, because everybody at that level is really, really good.
Man, that's really good stuff, Garrett. That's really good stuff. Your advice. So with Baseball Forward, this venture that my partner and I are on, we want to elevate the next generation of players and coaches. So with that sentiment in mind, what's your advice to young players coming up in the game right now? How would you elevate them to the next level?
I would say one of the things I tell our hitters, because I'm a hitting guy specifically, is let the coaches handle other players and teams' weaknesses, because we're going to scout that out and we're going to sniff it out right away. But as a player, you need to play to your strength. If you have a strong arm, show off that strong arm, especially in like a recruiting process. If you are very good at taking an outer half fastball and you're really good at hitting it to the opposite field gap, just do it over and over and over and over again until somebody's going to tell you that they can't anymore. So one of the things that we focus on at UMass Boston is, hey, a lot of these college pitchers are going to try to hit that outer third of the plate on their fastball to get ahead of you. Just single them to death to the opposite field. Spray the ball around the field, hit it in the opposite field gap, and then let them come inside, and then they're going to start making mistakes on you, and that's when the power numbers really start coming. I think just playing to your strengths is super important because a lot of guys play very passively. They try to be very good at everything they do, and there's nothing wrong with that, but especially in the recruiting process, we're looking for tools. So if you have a strong arm, you can play a little bit deeper and just show that thing off. Show it off in between innings. If you're not a power hitter, don't swing for the fences. Hit singles, single people to death. Single people to death. If you're a power hitter, obviously it's different. But if you're not a power hitter and you just keep popping the ball up, it's like this kid doesn't have an approach. He doesn't have a plan up there. Personally, as a recruiter that really focuses on the hitters, I want to see guys go up there with a plan. Like if I talk to them over the phone and they're like, yeah, I love looking for the outer third fastball, and then they get fisted on the first pitch of the game that I see them, I'm like, that's not the plan. And obviously you're going to make mistakes, but stick to a plan, stick to your tools, do what you do best.
That's really, really, really good stuff. I love it, Coach Callaghan. I'm curious to know the energy, man. You have passion. I can feel it, and I love it. Maybe it's that youth. I'm like, man, I wish I had that. The greatest influences. What gave you that energy? The greatest influences on your baseball career were?
I would say starting off, I have to give a big shout out to my dad. I know he'll probably listen to this, but he's been there with me from day one.
Heck yeah.
He coached my little league teams, my T-ball teams. He signed me up for baseball when I was like 3 or 4 years old. So a ton of the credit to my career, both playing and coaching, goes to him. He was the best father I could have asked for. And he's just the man in every aspect of things. Like he was there with me when stuff got really, really rough in high school and when things went sour, and he was always my biggest critic, but he was always my biggest fan. So big shout out to him. And then on the coaching side of things, I'll go back to my playing career a little bit. Obviously, my dad is a big influence on me. But I would say both of my head coaches at the college level, Dave Valicente and George Valicente, have been humongous influences on my baseball career, in addition to all the coaches the assistant coaches that have worked with me at Ithaca College and Rutgers as well. Mm-hmm. And then I would say for my coaching career, Brendan Eigebrod, our head coach here at UMass Boston, he's been such a great mentor for me. He knows I want to be a head coach at some point in my career as well. He's really teaching me the ropes. He's giving me a lot of autonomy, which I think was really risky for him to do as a first-time 24-year-old coach. But I'm so grateful for the place that I landed. I work with such great coaches, assistants, and head coaches as well. And then the players that I get to work with, all the credit goes to them every single day because they're the ones that are truly putting the work in.
Wow, man. You know what's so cool is hearing the influences and your coach at UMass Boston. That you guys win for a reason. He's no dummy. He brought in a dude and he knows it. I love hearing that, man, but I love your perspective. Last question I have for you. Interesting one here. What's one thing that you would do maybe to improve the game of baseball, if anything?
I am such a baseball purist at every level of things. So we need to get rid of the pitch clock immediately. I can't stand it. Like a big thing for me, especially as a hitter, obviously the hitters have to be in the box by a certain point. I think it's like the hitters have to be in the box like 8 or 9 seconds in, and then the pitchers have another 10 seconds to pitch after that. One of the biggest things that helped me throughout my baseball career, especially as a hitter, was, hey, I'm going to step out of the box. Yep. I'm going to catch my breath. I'm going to get my heart rate down, and I'm going to focus. I'm going to think about what do I expect to come next. And I didn't just have a plan for every at bat as a hitter. I had a plan for every single pitch. I reset, I get ball 1. It's like, okay, what's coming on 1-0? What should I expect here? What's my plan here? What am I going to spit on? What am I going to swing at? It takes time to think through those things. So the fact that you make a hitter step in the box after 8 seconds, I think there's beauty. I think there's beauty to the slowness of the game. I get it at the big league level and stuff, and the SEC, ACC level where there's thousands of people watching every single game. But at these, Division II, Division III levels, like I don't love the pitch clock. I don't love how rushed they're making some of the guys, and I do think that it's contributing to some arm injuries as well. Like guys that would take 20, 30 seconds between pitches. I think if you're just going to go, that's going to lead to more arm injuries as well.
Spoken like a true hitter, my friend. Spoken like a true hitter. And as a former pitcher, I was a hitter too, but professionally as a pitcher, I'm like, let's go, speed that thing up. I don't want guys like you thinking, man. I want you guys.
We talk about UMass Boston pitching with rhythm and tempo.
Yeah.
When you get into a groove, let's go, go, go. And as a hitter, I'm telling them to do the exact opposite thing. Like mess up their timing, mess up their rhythm. Let's get to the bullpen. Let's screw up their stuff. So
I love it.
It's a little bit different coming from a hitter's point of view compared to a pitcher's. But I'm a baseball purist. I think even if I focused on pitching, I'd say, hey, like there's beauty to the slowness of the game. I think baseball is the only sport where you can't like kneel it out like in football, where the time will just run down. You still got to get everyone out no matter what, even if you're up 15-0. So slow the game down and appreciate the slowness of it.
Man, I love that. And that's, like I said, spoken like a true hitter. Garrett Callaghan, UMass Boston, man. Hey, I want to say thank you very much. I know this. I expect really big things from you guys this coming spring. What a quality program UMass Boston is. Perennial top 10. Man, I wish you guys the best for the remainder of the fall into the spring. We'll definitely be following you. And I want to say thank you for your time. Any plugs you want to give in terms of social media? Any final goodbyes?
Yeah, so if any of the players that are listening to this ever need anything, I'm pretty easy to find on Instagram, Twitter. I typically follow just about everyone back on Twitter, so you could just send me a DM. I think my direct messages are open. So even if it's not about UMass Boston and you just have a question about the recruiting process or what you can do to better yourself as a player, feel free to reach out. My email is garrett.callahan@umb.edu as well if you want to reach out there. And then both my Instagram and Twitter, I believe, are @gmancallahan10 if you need to reach out.
Guys, he is a good guy. He is a good young coach, and you would be a moron to not use this guy as a resource. Garrett Callaghan, UMass Boston, thank you so much for being on the Baseball Forward podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me, Ross. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Take care.